Thank you, Professor Kass. I appreciate the detailed introduction. Thank you, Professor Data, for giving me the opportunity to present this paper too. Just to confirm, can you hear me well and can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So my topic, as it was introduced by Professor Charles, is leading and managing pedagogical innovation in hybrid universities. We see that there is a lot of emphasis on digitization in the universities. Many technological tools are introduced and applied. However, there are many concerns in terms of how these pedagogical innovations and pedagogical digitization tools are really managed and are really supervised and supported and coordinated in the right way by the leadership institution. So in order to see the really effectiveness of digitization and to discuss about technological applications and positive outcomes of these technological applications in the educational environment, we have to examine also to consider also the connection, the impact factor of institutional leadership and institutional management in terms of how these are applied, how the staff and the students experience the application of these tools, and how the staff is supported to apply in the right way these tools so that to bring the right pedagogical outcomes in the educational environment is not only the methodology that we apply, but it is also of great importance to consider the educational pedagogical values to be in line, or the other way better, these tools to be in line to serve the pedagogical and educational values. And for this alignment, critical role plays the leadership and institutional management of the universities. So we see that there is a huge digital transformation, as I explained, in higher education, creating many challenges in terms of how these are applied in practice. However, the transition to hybrid type of educational models, which has accelerated to a great extent the institutions, the higher education institution, to formalize blended learning approaches, is really a big challenging journey, incorporating many factors, which we will examine here whether these factors are considered. This transformation is really fundamentally pedagogical. It's not only technological, challenging different teaching methods which have to align with these new technological tools, different professional identities on the basis of, is really the academic staff, the IT experts, to apply in the right way what is taking place technologically. It also, this digital transformation challenges institutional cultures on the basis of, should the main variable, the main important factor to be only the term of innovation, pedagogical innovation, technological pedagogical innovation, or it should be as prerequisite, as part of the culture, the collaborative, the appropriate leadership distributed approach, where staff is involved, staff is invited to share feedback, students are invited to share experiences. So what kind of institutional culture is required when this digital transformation takes place in higher educational institutions? Which is the main research problem? The challenge is that there is a limited empirical understanding regarding how academic leaders really shape faculty adaptation to digital teaching. Existing literature focuses on policy shaping, technological adoption, rather than on life experiences of teaching staff and on the relational leadership practices throughout the application of this digital transformation in pedagogical matters. The rise of many different managerial models is very good. We see this in business, in organizations, and we see also from our research that with these new different managerial models, there are plenty of metrics which help towards the measurement of accountability, effectiveness of these practices which take place. But do we really see this to take place in the area of pedagogy and education when technology, digitization is applied? Do we really see the collaborative culture and experimental ethos which is required for any pedagogical innovation? Why this topic is important? It is important because pedagogical innovation should not be imposed through just directives or guidelines or whatever takes place in the external environment of the higher education institutions, this to be imposed inside just on the basis of the statement, we have to be modernized, we have to compete with other universities, we have to move forward towards this technological innovation, digitization of infrastructure. It must be led through the influence, trust building, so that to minimize resistance, to minimize anything which may create obstacle towards the real pedagogical, innovative mentality and acceptance, but also to take place an alignment of the academic pedagogical values with institutional goals. Is really the case always where any technological infrastructure really serve academic values and aligns, serves institutional goals, or we just see one side of the river that because digitization is all around, we need to move forward to digitization. Do we review internally as leaders, as academic leaders, whether these tools, these technological reforms, these technological innovations serve our goals, institutional goals? To what kind of adaptation should be considered? What kind of factors would be taken into account so that to facilitate this alignment? Understanding how leaders foster adaptive capacity, how leaders can facilitate experimentation so that through a trial error process to see what really fits internally in our institutions for our programs, for our curricula, for our students, for our strategy, and how leaders can create conditions for genuine digital pedagogical change, not only digital technological change, but digital pedagogical change where the values of the pedagogical educational values are served by this digitization is critical to the long-term success in hybrid universities. The main research questions of this study regards First, leadership support and inhibition. How do academic leaders support, really, or inhibit faculty engagement with pedagogical innovation in hybrid universities? Second, effective leadership practices. What kind of specific leadership practices are most effective in enabling staff, academic staff, to adapt to digital teaching tools and use digital tools to redesign curricula? Do we really have this adaptation process in our institutions? Does really any adaptation process which may take place in some institutions really works? What is missing? What is needed? Another part of the research question number 3, regards faculty perceptions. How do really faculty perceive the role of institutional leadership in facilitating this pedagogical digital transformation? Do they really feel that the leadership of the institutional leadership is in the right track, really supports staff, programs, departments, students, anything which is pedagogical oriented within the institutions in the right way, to the right extent, serving the educational purpose, which is the purpose of our higher education institutions? And the fourth question regards the organizational conditions. What organizational conditions and leadership behaviors are associated with sustainable faculty-led digital innovation? It is not only to see technological innovation, technological tools, digitization, whatever comes in the market as fragmented part of the process, is how we can create as organizations, academic organizations, the conditions for continuity, for consistency of what takes place at one period of time regarding technological infrastructure with what else take place in another period or in future. Is there this organizational, higher educational conditions really present? The main research objectives regard first the examination of leadership behavior. The study aims to examine leadership behavior, the type of leadership behavior which influence the uptake of digital teaching innovations among university faculty. Second, to explore faculty experiences, to explore what staff members experience throughout the application of digitization and new technological tools, and how they perceive the role of leadership during these institutional shifts to hybrid educational models. The third research objective is to identify enablers and barriers, to identify what enables and what obstacles are created to pedagogical innovation in digitally transforming university context. And the fourth is to develop a contextual framework for effective leadership of pedagogical adaptation in hybrid universities. So this is the frame on the basis that we do this research. The research design includes a qualitative interpretive case study that we apply in one specific university in UK into different faculties, a single institutional case design. These two faculties in UK university is the main case study, as I explained before, and we will try to compare and analyze the different leadership models which apply in these two faculties. The case context regards the faculty A, which is arts and humanities with distributed leadership model, emphasizing shared governance and pedagogical autonomy, which creates all the conditions for innovation, whereas the second faculty regards the health sciences with hierarchical leadership structure, more managerial oriented, more compliance oriented type of leadership, where everything is centrally managed. Any kind of pedagogical curriculum reform is centrally managed. The purposeful contrast enabled examination of how these different leadership logics between the hierarchical, managerial, compliance type of leadership creates the conditions or not for really pedagogical innovation compared to the one which is more distributed and more transformative type of leadership. In terms of the methodology, data collection methodology, we have semi-structured interviews. We had 24 interviews where 16 academic staff were interviewed, 4 program leaders, 4 senior educational developers, including deans, representing the institution leadership roles in the institution. There was the duration of the interview about 45-75 minutes. The focus was on the leadership support, on institutional strategies, adaptation processes that were followed or were not followed, and barriers to innovation. Many institutional documents were reviewed, including faculty digital strategy plans, staff development records, learning innovation reports. And the purpose of this review of these documents was to trace formal discourse and structural context of the change, how they were organized internally, these two faculties, in terms of applying the digital innovation, the digital transformation, how they were prepared, the staff, what kind of approaches took place under the umbrella of the way the different leadership mode each faculty had. There were also kept some field notes from these 2 university-wide teaching and learning events. There were insights into the different cultural parameters of leadership communication, which was the style of leadership communication in different faculties, and what was the staff discourse, the situation, staff experiences in these faculties. Regarding the data analysis methodology, we had a reflexive thematic analysis where we had the familiarization process, like to what extent the staff were familiarized with whatever was applied, the initial coding, the theme construction, the main subject areas that we identified as important, the theme review, and then naming, defining the types of the outcomes or in terms of how the leadership type mode with the hybrid university and digital tools, type of tools, provided the conditions, the staff to experience this technological infrastructure. Nivo 14 software was used for organization and cross-case comparison. Themes were developed inductively, following the inductive approach, and interpreted through sensitizing concepts regarding leadership and educational change literature. Member checking with 4 participants validated the theme accuracy. We consider ethical factors like the ethical approval obtained through the institutional review board. All participants provided informal consent. Anonymity was kept through pseudonymization of names, roles, faculty identifiers. Particular care was taken regarding the sensitivity of leadership evaluation and leadership assessment effectiveness in these faculties. We know that leadership is very important from a literature perspective for any pedagogical change. Academic leadership involves the type of influence, the inspirational, the trust, which is built throughout the relations that the leaders build with the staff, and it gradually facilitates the staff to adapt to any pedagogical change, to convince, first of all, about the value and purpose of the change, but also through the appropriate planning to facilitate the change journey, building relations, involving people, encouraging people. So all these regard a relational trust and negotiation of values, like we share and exchange ideas in terms of using technology, but how the technology can serve, as we said, the academic, educational, pedagogic values, prioritizing this. Transforming pedagogical practice requires vision, ability to foster shared purpose of the reason, the importance, the value of any change, and successful leadership mediates between institutional goals and individual academic identities. Like, what are the different approaches, perspective, mentalities, perceptions, have to be all how can I say, be resolved, so that not to have black and white approaches, but all the staff and the perception the staff has about any technological innovation to be in the same line, to align with the institutional goals. The second issue is transformational and distributed leadership importance in any pedagogical innovation. Transformational leadership emphasizes the vision, the intellectual stimulation, inspiration. Distributed leadership decentralizes responsibility and leverages collective expertise. Both models positively are associated with pedagogical innovation adoption, according to literature research. Faculty identity and agency is another very important framework we have to consider, because every pedagogical innovation requires transformation in a professional identity and within the teaching philosophy we apply in our higher education institutions. Faculty identity is closely tied to disciplinary knowledge, and we have to consider this kind of differences, which might be because of the different disciplines. And agency, critical autonomy to design digital pedagogy, fosters professional growth. So if the leaders can provide space for autonomy, this helps the digital pedagogy to be designed on the right grounds, and to foster not only the pedagogical innovation, but also the professional growth for the staff. And the last framework, which is important, is the institutional organizational culture and barriers, that very often institutional conditions significantly shape the innovation potential. Managerial governance can lead to compliance culture and performative adoption, whereas resistance also often is rooted in a kind of skepticism about institutional priorities rather than technological aversion. The type of institutional conditions which create obstacles for innovation and potential of innovations, and at the same time these institutions, because of the need to modernize, move to digital innovation and technological tools, new technological tools, applications, without creating the right culture, the right conditions, this ends up to have a chaos, uncertainty, often resistance from staff, which staff may apply because it is imposed directed to be applied, but without really be convinced about the value, the purpose of this, but also not applying these tools in the right way. And in terms of the data collection methods, as we said, I had a mistake with my slides. So we have this key frameworks that are considered as background of our study. Which are the contemporary, on the other side, needs in pedagogical innovation? We know that anything which takes place pedagogically actually is shaped by evolving learner expectations, diverse student demographics, demand for employability-oriented education. And the key issues regarding innovation include the need for new learning paradigms. So we promote active and experiential learning, having flipped classrooms, competency-based curricula, not only skill curricula which cultivate skills, but competency-based curricula which cultivate knowledge, skills, and values, which is very important in terms of what we want to promote. So it would be oxymoron of what we want to promote, this to be in a contradiction of what we apply pedagogically internally, violating the pedagogical values, or not aligning what we apply as tool, technological, for example, pedagogical tool, with the values that represent the institution. Micro-credentials is another very important factor, and personalized learning pathways, how we encourage, create the conditions that our students to have to find their own way of learning, the continuous learning, the self-learning, personalized learning pathways. Another important issue regarding pedagogic matters nowadays is essential skill focus. We focus regarding our curriculum on critical thinking. Yes?
Professor Fragouli, we just have another 2 to 3 minutes left if you really can.
Yes. Digital fluency, etc. On implementation challenges like conceptual uncertainty matters, inflexible curriculum, etc. So what we see in terms of the faculty innovation comparison here, we see that this dark blue line is the distributed transformative type of leadership, whereas the light blue is the managerial compliance type, where we see that there is more leadership support when we apply distributed transformative leadership in our faculty. The digital pedagogy is applied to a higher extent than when we have just compliance, like we impose on our faculty to apply the tools, than supporting, involving, inviting people, staff to share their experience, their opinion, to provide them feedback, to create the conditions, them to innovate, to experiment. It is promoted curriculum innovation in distributed leadership much more than managerial compliance type, faculty collaboration more in distributed transformative leadership when it's applied in a digital pedagogic environment than when it is more compliance type of leadership, more institutional alignment with the goals. Whatever we apply technologically, it is aligned better with our institutional goals when the leadership is more supportive, creates more space for autonomy, freedom, experimentation, than when the leadership is more directive or more managerial, emphasizes more the compliance to what needs to take place. We need to modernize, we need to apply what takes place outside without creating the conditions. More sustainability, future sustainability of technological change in future. The key findings is that in faculty A, we achieve a 4.5 out of 5, where the staff is described leaders as more present, more approachable, more genuinely interested in teaching. Leaders are kind of partners. There is more higher level of pedagogical fluency, whereas in the staff, where it is more compliance type of leadership, we see that staff lack of visibility. They are the leadership operates more at a distance, issuing just leadership, digital teaching goals, without really building pedagogical scaffolding, the staff to buy in of what takes place. The key findings regarding engagement, we see that in faculty A, give me please 1 minute. Yes. So we see that the digital pedagogy engagement is encouraged more in faculty A, the curriculum innovation autonomy more in faculty A than in faculty B. The faculty collaboration is much higher in fact when it is distributed leadership than in managerial type of leadership faculty. Institutional alignment with the goals is also higher. So we see that the relational leadership is a catalyst for applying in the right way pedagogical, technological innovation. So leadership for pedagogical innovation is a nuanced interplay of relational trust, academic credibility, shared vision, and faculty A leaders were embedded more with academic culture, understood better the pedagogical discourse, engaged, created the situation, the staff to engage more. There are structural enablers which matter. It's not only the technology and infrastructure which takes place, but how you embed the innovation in formal structures, how you create mentoring programs as leader, workload allowances, peer learning groups, distributed agency, which thrives only when institutions provide the time, the recognition, and relational space. More empowerment and compliance is provided with distributed leadership. More professional reconfiguration with distributed type of leadership, which helps the staff to be more involved. So the study, as conclusion, illuminates the pivotal role of the academic leadership in saying this trajectory movement to pedagogical innovation in hybrid university context. So the leadership as a deeply pedagogical, cultural, and relation act can be an enabler, this pedagogical infrastructure, digitization, modernization to be applied in the right way. So the leadership is a dialogic, participatory, pedagogical literate, which fosters and as an enabler the levels of engagement, the support, the preparation, the training, the familiarization, the acceptance with digital teaching strategies, deeper curricular reform, stronger collaborative networks. So the future of pedagogical innovation lies not only in technological adoption alone, as it is unfortunately the case in many situations, but in the cultivation of institutional cultures where leadership and learning are deeply connected. Sustainable educational change in hybrid universities requires the leadership, distributed type of leadership, distributed in structure, transformational in intent, and pedagogical in substance. So the practical recommendation is establish distributed leadership frameworks when you introduce, apply technological infrastructures in higher education institutions, invest in pedagogical development, embedded structured educational development programs, align recognition systems with innovation, reward and recognize educational innovation, informal career progression, value the curriculum design, involve the staff, share experience, of the staff and of the students, creating pedagogical research as well, so that to give the space of sustainability of this change, continuous change, embed faculty-led innovation in strategy, strengthen pedagogical communication, developing consistent, transparent, dialogic communication strategies, including open forums, co-creation panels, and regular consultation processes. So the recommendations for future research is that there is the need for longitudinal studies to explore how leadership models influence pedagogical information over time, capturing how initiatives evolve, embed, dissipate depending on shifts in leadership style, cross-institutional comparative studies, comparative research to take place across multiple countries or systems or faculties in the school, to student perceptions to be involved as feedback, and the role of middle leaders, not only the top management team of the institutions, and of course the impact on academic integrity. Thank you.